This morning, before you got out of bed, before you brushed your teeth, before you said a single word to another human being, you checked your phone. You probably don't even remember doing it. It took maybe 4 seconds. A quick scan. Notifications, messages, maybe a scroll through something. Then you put it down and started your day. Here is what happened inside your brain during those 4 seconds. A chemical flooded your prefrontal cortex. Your heart rate increased slightly. Your pupils dilated. A signal fired that your nervous system has been using for 300,000 years. A signal that was designed, refined, and perfected for one specific purpose: finding food after days of starvation. And your phone just hijacked it completely. This is not a story about screen time. This is not a lecture about putting your phone down. This is the story of the most powerful motivational system ever produced by evolution. What it was built for, what we replaced it with, and what that replacement is quietly doing to your ability to feel anything at all. Before anything else, understand what dopamine is not. For 20 years, popular science called it the pleasure chemical, the feel-good molecule, the reward neurotransmitter. Books were written about it, podcasts built around it. The word entered everyday language as shorthand for anything enjoyable. Every single one of those descriptions was wrong. In 2001, neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz published research that rewrote what scientists thought they understood about dopamine. What he found was this: dopamine does not fire when you receive a reward. It fires when you anticipate one. Read that again. The chemical does not activate during the moment of satisfaction. It activates in the moment before, the moment of expecting something good, the moment of pursuit, the moment of almost. Schultz demonstrated this by training monkeys to expect a reward after a specific signal. When the signal appeared, not when the reward arrived, dopamine spiked. When the reward arrived on schedule, dopamine barely moved. When the reward didn't arrive at all, dopamine crashed below baseline. Your brain is not a pleasure machine. It is an anticipation machine. It is a hunting machine. It evolved not to celebrate what you have found, but to drive you relentlessly toward what you haven't found yet. And for 300,000 years, that distinction didn't matter because anticipation and effort were the same thing, until they weren't. Picture a hunter-gatherer leaving camp at first light. No food for 2 days. The group is watching. This matters. He finds a partial footprint in soft mud. Dopamine fires. He follows a trail of broken grass. Dopamine fires again. He reads the wind, adjusts direction, finds a watering hole with fresh tracks. Every clue, every small discovery, every narrowing of the distance between him and the target, dopamine building, building, building. This is what the system was designed for: the anticipation of real reward after real effort, hours of sustained focus, genuine uncertainty about whether the effort would pay off, and at the end, not just food, but the deep neurological satisfaction of a system that completed exactly the loop it was built to complete: effort, anticipation, uncertain outcome, real reward. This same system fired when early humans solved complex problems, when they figured out how to make fire in wet conditions, when they navigated back to camp after 3 days lost, when they gained the trust of the group after weeks of contributing. All of it built on the same architecture: work first, reward after, uncertainty in the middle. And critically, the reward was proportional to the effort. 3 days of hunting produced 3 days of dopamine buildup. The satisfaction at the end was massive because the system had been running at full capacity for 3 days straight. There was another feature of ancient dopamine that almost nobody talks about: the crash. After a successful hunt, ancient humans rested deeply. The dopamine system needed recovery time, long stretches of genuine rest, sitting by a fire, watching the landscape, doing almost nothing. The brain cycled down completely, and when it cycled back up, it was sensitive again, ready for the next hunt, fully reset. The system required both peaks and valleys to function correctly. Your system has not had a valley in years. In 2004, Facebook launched. In 2007, the iPhone arrived. In 2009, the pull-to-refresh gesture was patented. The designer who created it later said publicly that he regretted building it. He compared it to a slot machine. You pull, you wait, something appears. Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it isn't, but you pull again. That uncertainty, That tiny gap between pulling and seeing is not accidental. It is the anticipation window, the moment dopamine spikes. The designers of these systems understood the neuroscience. They built the spike in deliberately. And here is what makes it different from everything that came before. Ancient dopamine required effort to trigger. Hours of tracking, days of searching, weeks of skill building. The brain had to work to earn the chemical. Modern dopamine requires nothing. A notification sound. Zero effort, dopamine spike. A scroll downward with one finger. Zero effort, dopamine spike. A like counter updating. Zero effort, dopamine spike. The system cannot tell the difference between tracking an animal for 8 hours and refreshing a feed for 8 seconds. It registers both as anticipated reward incoming. It fires the same chemical, the same intensity, but one of them cost 300,000 years of evolutionary refinement to produce. The other cost a software engineer 2 weeks to design. Same chemical, completely different price. And the brain, your ancient, perfectly calibrated brain, has no mechanism to distinguish between them.
Here is what nobody told you about dopamine tolerance. When a system is triggered constantly, without effort, without delay, without genuine uncertainty, the brain adapts. It has to. The baseline shifts upward. The same stimulus produces less response. The brain requires more of the same input just to feel normal. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable neurological change. A 2018 study published in JAMA Pediatrics tracked adolescent screen use and mental health outcomes across 4 years. The correlation was not subtle.
The more frequent the low-effort dopamine triggering, social media, gaming, passive scrolling, the higher the rates of anxiety, depression, and inability to sustain attention on anything that required genuine effort. Because here is what tolerance actually means in practice. When your baseline rises, ordinary life falls below it. Food that would have tasted extraordinary to an ancient human tastes fine to you. A sunset that would have been a genuine source of wonder barely registers. A conversation with someone you love competes with the pull of your phone and frequently loses. This is not ingratitude. This is not weakness. This is a brain that has been trained by thousands of low-effort dopamine triggers every single day to require more stimulation than the real world can naturally provide. The real world moves too slowly now. It doesn't refresh fast enough. It doesn't update constantly enough. It doesn't give you enough small hits in rapid succession. And so the real world starts to feel flat. That flatness is not depression. Not yet. It is something quieter and in some ways more dangerous. It is a brain that is slowly losing its ability to find genuine meaning in genuine things. Here is a detail that should stop you completely. Ancient humans did not experience boredom the way you do. Not because their lives were more exciting, because boredom, the restless, uncomfortable need to reach for something feeling, is a symptom of a system that has been trained to expect constant stimulation and is now not receiving it.
Before that training existed, quiet was not uncomfortable. Sitting and watching a landscape for an hour was not something the brain needed to escape. It was something the brain used for observation, for processing, for the kind of slow thinking that built civilizations. The average modern person switches their attention every 47 seconds. In 2004, before the smartphone era, that number was 2.5 minutes.
Ancient hunters tracked single animals for up to 8 hours without losing focus, not because they were more disciplined, because their dopamine system had never been taught to expect a new hit every 47 seconds. Their brains were calibrated to the pace of the real world. Your brain is calibrated to the pace of a feed. And those two paces are so different that the real world, the actual, physical, slow-moving real world, now feels like the thing that needs to be escaped from. We did not make life more stimulating. We made cheap stimulation more available. And the brain, which cannot distinguish between earned reward and manufactured reward, adjusted its expectations accordingly. The cost of that adjustment is only now becoming visible. Your dopamine system is not broken. It is running the exact software it was given 300,000 years ago. Every circuit intact, every pathway functional, every mechanism working precisely as designed.
It still rewards sustained effort. It still builds anticipation over time. It still produces the deep satisfaction that comes from completing something genuinely difficult. It still resets during genuine rest. It still works. The system is not the problem. We gave it the wrong inputs. We took a system built to drive humans across landscapes, solve real problems, earn real food, and build real relationships, and we pointed it at a glass rectangle that delivers artificial anticipation at a speed and frequency no natural environment ever could.
The system responded the only way it knows how. It adapted. It raised the baseline. It recalibrated. And now the landscape feels empty. The food tastes ordinary. The relationships require effort you no longer have. The achievements feel hollow the moment you reach them. Not because you are broken, because the system is still hunting. You just replace the animal with a notification. And unlike the hunter who came home after 3 days with something real, you come home from every scroll with nothing in your hands. And you reach for your phone again.